Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Sports Stuff video. Today, we're going to be talking about the head coach hires made in the NFL cycle and grading them. So if you guys enjoy, please like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into the video. So I will say there are two hires missing from this video because I think both teams are waiting for the Super Bowl to happen so they can hire their head coach. That is the Las Vegas Raiders and the Arizona Cardinals. Both of them have not made hires. Both of them have done some second round interviews with Clint Kubiak, Aiden Durd, some other guys on the Patriots as well. So there's not much we can really talk about because they have not hired them. But we'll be going over the 8 or 9 teams that have hired head coaches. So starting off, we have the Baltimore Ravens hiring Jesse Minter. Jesse Minter, he's probably the best first-time head coach defensive option on the market. So of the defensive coordinators, guys who've never been a head coach before, he was the best option, and the Baltimore Ravens do grab him. He inherits an offense ready to win, so all Jesse Minter has to worry about is the defense, because this offense has been ready for the last 3 years to win a Super Bowl, but the defense could never match that offense's readiness. Well, it now matches that. You got the most out of an average edge rushing group in Los Angeles. Obviously, 34, 35-year-old Khalil Mack, Tuli Tuipulotu, second-year player, and Kyle Kennard, Bud Dupree. Like, it's a pretty mediocre edge rushing group. He got the most out of them. Tuli Tuipulotu broke 10 sacks. I think Khalil Mack also broke 10 sacks, even with missing 4 or 5 games. He developed guys like Tarheeb Still at corner and Tuli Tuipulotu. 3-4 defense, there's not much needed a roster overhaul. That's what the Ravens have been running for years, is a 3-4 defense. So Jesse Minter can come in and doesn't have to make a big culture change immediately. Lamar, he finally gets a great defense to play opposite his great offense. In my opinion, this is an A+ hire. I was saying that I think Brian Flores would be a great hire for the Baltimore Ravens, but they wanted to go even younger and a first-time unproven dude, and that's Jesse Minter. Brian Flores returns to the Minnesota Vikings to be the defensive coordinator. So the Baltimore Ravens, they get Jesse Minter, their next option. I think it was a great hire. He was like the 3rd or 4th dude that was hired in the cycle, and I think they got the guy they actually want at the end of the day, and that's great for them. Next, we have the Miami Dolphins with Jeff Hafley. Jeff Hafley, he's been a great defensive coordinator in Green Bay for the last 2 years. He can develop talents like Chop Robinson and Kenneth Grant, both first-round picks in the last 3 years. So those are 2 guys on his defensive line he can build around. The offense needs to get a new identity, and they do get a new identity with a new offensive coordinator, being Bobby Slowick, the former Texans offensive coordinator. So they'll be able to get a new identity and no commitment to Tua Tagovailoa. He has been head coach before, but he was in college at Boston College, and it was for 4 seasons. So he knows, he understands what it takes to be a head coach, how to be successful, how to lead a group of men. And I think Jeff Hafley, it's a solid hire, not awful. When Micah Parsons was healthy this year, they did have a top 5 unit, and I thought this was going to be one of those Super Bowl teams that if they can get hot at the right time, their defense can carry them to multiple wins, and their offense can play well off of it. Unfortunately, he gets hurt. Defense falls back to, like, I think 18 or 19 when it comes to ranking. And they obviously, they go one and done in the playoffs. The biggest question mark on this roster is Tua, but Jeff Hafley, as a head coach, that's not really his biggest priority because his priority is the defensive side of the ball. If they can make a top 5, top 10 defense, whatever quarterback they have on their team can feast off that. And I do think that Tua will be on the roster next year, but I think they are going to give Quinn Ewers or Zach Wilson another year to prove if they can beat Tua Tagovailoa and move off of Tua after next season. My grade is a B. I wasn't the biggest fan of Jeff Hafley being hired anywhere, but of the options that the Miami Dolphins had, he was clearly at the top of their list, and I think that's someone that, they believed in. Their GM now, the Miami Dolphins GM, their new GM, comes from Green Bay, so him and Jeff Hafley know each other very well. So I think that's another reason why they wanted to pair up 2 guys who knew each other and wanted to succeed together, and that's what the Miami Dolphins did with Jeff Hafley. Next is going to be the Tennessee Titans grabbing Robert Saleh. At first, I was a little confused because I thought they were going to go an offensive head coach, whether it was Kevin Stefanski, Mike McCarthy, but they came out with Robert Saleh. He was a great hire for Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward had a lot to do about who they're going to hire, and Robert Saleh is that type of aggressive, violent head coach. Like, his mentality is football is violent, so let's be the most violent football team we can. That's Cam Ward. He wants to be aggressive. He will be calling plays this time around, so I do expect a great defense. Last time when he was in New York, he did not call plays, so it wasn't even really Robert Saleh's defense. this will be Robert Saleh's defense in Tennessee, and that is very exciting. Amazing coordinator hires as well. He has Brian Dable as the offensive coordinator. That's amazing for Cam Ward. I think that is a great hire. I don't really want Cam Ward running, like, being a dual threat quarterback, but making plays with his feet, when the pocket breaks down, going out and making a play. That's what Cam Ward does, and that's what Brian Dable loves to do as well. I think that's a great fit, and I'm so excited to see what him and Cam Ward can do. He gets a second shot at head coach with a young, promising quarterback in New York. They had Zach Wilson, it didn't work out. They go to Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers wants Robert Saleh gone, and they choose Aaron Rodgers over Robert Saleh. But I thought, the defense that the Jets had under Saleh was pretty competent, but they definitely, obviously they were not a very winning organization. I do think Robert Saleh is better than what he was in New York. He turned water into wine in San Francisco this past year. No Nick Bosa, no Fred Warner. You lost Dre Greenlaw. You lost Talanoa Hufanga. You lost your first round pick of Michael Williams. You had third string guys playing, and you guys won 14 games and go into the divisional round of the playoffs. A lot was because of Robert Saleh and their defense. He elevated the floor of the defense and the team. I think that's a big hit to the San Francisco 49ers and a big gain for the Titans, as he can shape the culture and the roster however he wants. This team has the most amount of money, a lot of draft picks, and the only solidified players on this team that will be there in 2 years that you can guarantee are Cedric Gray, Jeffrey Simmons, and Cam Ward. Those are the only players that you can 100% guarantee are going to be there. And outside of that, however Robert Saleh and Brian Dibble want to shape the roster, they're going to have free reign with Mike Borgonzi, their GM, to do whatever the heck they want. So I think that's a great hire for them. I'm giving it an A, and I'm so happy for Robert Saleh. I really hope he does succeed. He was one of my favorite head coaches when he was a head coach. Goes to San Francisco, proves why he should be a head coach, and now in Tennessee, with not a lot of ownership meddling, they're going to let him do his thing. I think it's going to be a great thing for Robert Saleh. Next is going to be the Falcons hiring Kevin Stefanski. Of the offensive options, he was the number one candidate, two-time coach of the year. When he did have solid quarterback play, the Browns had 2 11-win seasons. That was with Baker Mayfield at his height in 2020. 11-win season. Then, even when Baker Mayfield was injured, they went 8-9. They traded for Deshaun Watson. They started Jacoby Brissett. They won 7 games, I think. Then 11-win season, and then back-to-back 3-win seasons. So not great at the end for Kevin Stefanski, but I do think when he had the quarterback that he wanted, and they didn't invest all that money in draft capital into, they did have a competent offense. He inherits a top 5 running back in Bijan Robinson and a top 10 wide receiver in Drake London. And if they can get back Kyle Pitts, that's another top 10 young tight end in this league. It's a great offensive line as well. I do expect this offense to take a step forward from what they had last year with Zach Robinson. And they're keeping defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. So the defense should stay relatively the same. Honestly get better. Like the play calling should stay about the same. So if their offense can just take a step forward, this could be a 10 or 11 win team next year. And that's something that I am really happy for Kevin Stefanski. I hope he can get that next year. I do expect Kirk Cousins to be their starter day one due to Penix's injury. And Kirk Cousins was who Kevin Stefanski wanted last year, but they never cut him. The Falcons never cut him. They didn't want to trade him, so they settled for Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. So the fact that Kevin gets Kirk Cousins to be that mentor role that he wanted last year, and he can be that for Michael Penix and whatever quarterback they also draft, because they'll probably draft someone in the round 4 or round 5. But I think it's an A- grade for the Falcons. I think it's a great hire for Kevin Stefanski. He gets the offensive line, he gets the running back, he gets the wide receiver, and the only question he has to solve is quarterback. But he has Kirk Cousins to be the steady veteran who can kind of hold on to the role for a year or two while they figure that out. So great for Kevin Stefanski. I'm giving it an A-. Next is the New York Giants with John Harbaugh. He was the number one option on the market, period. Every team wanted John Harbaugh. The question was, who is John Harbaugh wanting to go to? He knows how to develop an athletic quarterback. So Jackson Dart, the mentality that Lamar has, I think he can instill that in Jackson Dart. I am very excited for John Harbaugh and that crew. The defense, they're ready to compete as well. While John Harbaugh isn't a defensive coordinator, his hand is always in the defensive meetings and obviously in the offensive meetings as well. But defense is really where the bread and butter for John Harbaugh has been, as we've seen in his tenure in Baltimore. They've always had pretty solid defensive coordinators, and I think John Harbaugh is going to be able to bring that to New York. Coordinators are going to make or break his Giants tenure. That's the thing that John Harbaugh has always been pretty solid at, is moving off of coordinators when he needs to. When Greg Roman, it was obviously hit a wall. They moved on. They grabbed Todd Monken. Lamar wins another MVP. When they fired Wink Martindale because they kept hitting a wall, they grabbed Mike McDonald. Boom, 2 years of being a defensive coordinator. He's a head coach in Seattle, now going to the Super Bowl. They hired Zach Gore. In year one was a little bit of rough, but towards the end of the season, they started, playing really well. And obviously, with John Harbaugh being fired, Zach Gore is gonna be on another team. But John Harbaugh, again, he's more of a CEO type role, so his coordinators are gonna make or break his Giants tenure. In this New York media, they're no joke. They will tear him apart if he does not make the playoffs within 2 years. You have a young core, a really good defense ready to compete for a playoff spot, and a young core and offense that if you can get them clicking on all cylinders, can make a playoff run immediately. So I'm gonna give this grade an A+, especially because they're giving John Harbaugh roster control and draft control. So that is a lot of what the GM does. The GM now is gonna worry about contracts and making sure John's cool with everything. But this is John Harbaugh's team. He's in that Bill Belichick era of his career where what he says goes. So I do think the Giants are going to be in a better spot than they were in the last 10 years. So I'm going to be rooting for the Giants and John Harbaugh, giving it an A+ higher. Next, we have the Steelers with Mike McCarthy. I'm not super high on the move. I thought it was an unexpected move. I thought he would take a young quarterback versus no quarterback. I thought the Giants, the Titans, the Raiders, maybe even with when they draft Fernando Mendoza, the Cardinals with Kyler Murray. I thought that's the type of move that he would go for. Instead, he chooses the Pittsburgh Steelers because that is a team he rooted for growing up. So that is very cool. That's a cool storyline. I'm happy for him. He's be able to do that. But he is 62 years old, right? And I don't see Aaron Rodgers returning to Pittsburgh because him and Mike McCarthy did not mesh well in Green Bay. There's a reason that Mike was fired and Aaron Rodgers eventually left. So I don't know why the Steelers would go with a 62-year-old offensive mind. Very confusing. But I am happy for Mike McCarthy. It is an old, expensive team. I just don't think he's the guy to kind of lead an old, expensive team. Maybe they just didn't like any of the candidates this year. So they said, you know what, let's hire Mike McCarthy. He'll be the head coach for a year or two. And then in the future, we'll let him go and get someone else when we like the pool of candidates better. Because I will say, obviously Chris Shula didn't get a job. Aiden Durr didn't get a job. The Jaguars coordinators didn't get a job. Nate Scheelhaas didn't get a job. So maybe the Steelers said, you know what? There's no one in this cycle that we're really big fans of. No coordinators that we really want. Let's grab Mike McCarthy, a proven winning head coach, try and get another 8 or 9 win season. And next year, we'll reevaluate the coaching pool. Or maybe 2 years from now, we'll reevaluate the coaching pool. But I just don't think this is a great move. I'm going to give it a C. Good enough because I do like Mike McCarthy. I think he's a solid head coach. I just thought this is the wrong team for him. That's just me. I think it's the wrong roster, the wrong organization for Mike McCarthy. Next, we have the Bills with Joe Brady. They settled on their own offensive coordinator. They did join the search very late. Guys like Kevin Stefanski and John Harbaugh were already hired, and I do think they would have gone to Buffalo over their current jobs. So I think Joe Brady, they kind of settled on him because he was the best option available for them. He coached Josh Allen to an MVP, and this year, he turned James Cook into the #1 running back. Number 1 in yards and touchdowns and receiving yards. He's #1 running back overall this year when it comes to stats. Familiarity to keep the offense how it is, because I think everyone can agree that the Buffalo Bills issue is not the offense, it is the defense. They always crumble late in games. Obviously, Josh Allen in the playoffs throws 4 interceptions. That's on him. That is on him and Joe Brady. But I do think of the options that they had, Joe Brady with Jim Leonard, who they just hired as a defensive coordinator, that is an elite duo of offensive play caller and defensive play caller. I really like it, but I did feel like the team needed new blood in the building. I didn't think they would go with their own hire in Joe Brady. I really thought they want someone new, fresh, who doesn't know the organization and isn't going to play favorites. So I am interested to see the difference in a Buffalo Bills under Joe Brady and a Buffalo Bills under Sean McDermott, as Sean McDermott did hire Joe Brady, and he's been there for 4 years. So my grade is going to be a B-. Again, not the worst hire on the board, but I am a little worried. Not worried. I am a little confused why they would just settle with their own guy when obviously the construction of the roster and the coaching staff did not get it done. They're going to keep essentially a lot of the same coaching staff outside of the head coach. So we'll see, but I'm going to give it a B- because I did think eventually he would have gotten a head coaching job, but I just don't think he should have stayed in Buffalo. And finally, I'm going to go with the Browns Browns with Todd Monken. Number one, listen, I was very low on Todd Monken, but in the last 3 days, I've read a lot about the Ravens offense. I've been, let it cool off my anger of not getting a young offensive coordinator and instead going with a more proven guy. Since Todd Monken joined the Baltimore Ravens, they were the #1 offense for pass EPA and #5 for run EPA. So that is estimated points added. So in their passing offense, they were the #1 in every time they ran every time a drive started, they were number 1 in estimated points added. So that means that they scored more points over expectation than any other team in the NFL. So if they thought, due to field position, you get down, they punt to the 20-yard line, right? You gotta go 80 yards. The system would think, okay, you should average out about 4.5 yards a drive at the 20. They instead would score a touchdown, so they would average 7 points per drive, estimated points added. That's number 1. So number 1 in estimated points added when it comes to pass game, and number 5 for the run game. So that tells me very efficient offense. They like to score, and they get the hard yards. Awesome. That's what the Browns need. This offense has been an issue, and Todd Monken has proven that with the right quarterback, he can turn an offense into the number 1 offense in the league. He helped Lamar win another MVP. I believe his first year with Lamar, they won an MVP. He got the most out of a 30-plus-year-old Derrick Henry. He developed Isaiah Likely into a great tight end. I think he'll love Harold Fannin. Plus, Shedeur Sanders. Todd Monken wanted to draft Shedeur Sanders. He thought he'd be really good. The Baltimore Ravens don't draft him because Shedeur did not want to go to Baltimore. He wanted to go to a situation with a more open quarterback battle. So he goes to Cleveland. Now Todd Monken, who wanted to draft Shedeur, can go have Shedeur as his quarterback for at least one gap year while they figure out their franchise situation. Wide receivers, that it has been an issue in Baltimore, even under Todd Monken, under Greg Roman. That has been an issue. To me, that is worrying. But he's 60 years old for a rebuilding offense. I am a little confused why they went with someone a little more tenured. But Todd Monken's only been in the NFL for 10 years. His entire life has been in college. As a college head coach, college offensive coordinator, college play caller. That's what 40 years of his career is. Only the last 10 years he's been in the NFL. And 8 of those, he was in the NFL. 2 of them, he went to Georgia and won 2 national championships. So I'm a little higher on Todd Monken because let's say Todd Monken had the exact same resume, but he was 40 years old. I'd be bouncing off the walls, happy. So I think ageism did play into a lot of the anger immediately because if Todd Monken could bring that Baltimore Ravens offense, that Georgia offense to the Cleveland Browns, and whoever is defensive coordinator, because you're going to lose Jim Schwartz, whoever's the defensive coordinator can have Myles Garrett, have Denzel Ward, have Mason Graham, Carson Schlesinger. Like, that's a good defense no matter who's the play caller. But if you can get Todd Monken to turn a number 31 ranked offense into maybe number 20 or number 18, the Browns are a playoff team next year. So I'm a little higher on Todd Monken. After I've let the anger cool off, I'm going to give him that grade a B+. So that is so far all the hires made in the NFL. Obviously, the Raiders have not made a hire yet. The Cardinals have not made a hire yet. So I will make a addendum video that won't be as long when those hires are made. So if you guys enjoy, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below who is your favorite hire from the cycle so far and who's your least favorite hire. Again, if you guys enjoy, hit the notification bell. I will be posting a part 2 whenever the next 2 hires are made. And I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.